Have you ever had that frustrating moment? You ask your super smart AI assistant a question, and then you just wait and wait. You know it's this incredibly powerful thing, but it feels like it's taking a coffee break. Well, today we're going to dig into exactly why that happens and look at a brilliantly simple idea that makes these AI assistants, well, unbelievably fast. Okay, so here's the game plan. First, we'll talk about the problem, the slow super assistant. Then we'll look at why the most obvious fix, just old school caching, totally fails here. After that, we get to the really cool part, the big idea of reusing plans instead of answers. We'll break down how the system called AgentReuse actually works. And finally, you'll see the massive payoff. It's pretty amazing. All right, let's start with the promise of these new AI agents. You know, the ones powered by large language models. They're supposed to be these incredible helpers that can handle complex, multi-step tasks for us. But the reality can be painfully slow. So imagine you ask your assistant for something pretty simple, right? Book a ticket from Hefei to Beijing for the day after tomorrow. That's it. One sentence. It should just happen. But behind the curtain, oh man, there is a lot more going on. You think it just goes and looks for a ticket? Nope. What's really happening is the AI has to create this whole battle plan from scratch. First, it has to figure out, okay, what date is the day after tomorrow? Then it has to check the weather, look up both flights and trains, compare all of those schedules and prices, check your personal calendar to make sure you're even free. And only then, after all that, can it put everything together to give you a smart recommendation. That one little sentence you spoke kicks off this entire 7-step process. And this is where that painful wait comes from. The research shows that just creating that 7-step plan, not executing it, not booking anything, just thinking about how to do it, takes an average of 25 seconds. In our world, that kind of delay, what engineers call latency, is basically an eternity when you're just staring at your screen. Now, if you're a developer, your brain is probably screaming, just cache it. You know, caching, saving a result to reuse later, is the classic way to speed things up. But for these AI agents, it turns out to be a total trap. So to see why, let's just ask a simple question. Let's say we have 2 different travel requests. Do you think they're similar enough that we can just reuse the answer from the first one for the second? Let's take a look. Okay, check this out. On the left is our original trip to Beijing. Let's say the AI finds the perfect flight and it saves or caches that specific flight info. Now, request 2 comes in, a ticket from Changsha to Shanghai. If the system just reuses that saved answer, you see the problem, right? It's going to recommend a flight to the completely wrong city on the wrong day. Caching the final answer is way too rigid. It's not just useless, it's actually dangerous. So, if saving the final result is a dead end, what's the solution? Well, it's a brilliant shift in how you think about the problem. I love this analogy. Stop saving the finished meal, start saving the recipe. And this is the core of a mechanism the researchers built called AgentReuse. The whole idea is to stop caching the final response, and instead cache the underlying plan, the recipe, that the AI came up with. It cleverly separates your general goal, like book travel, from the specific details, like the cities and the dates. This quote from the paper just nails the insight perfectly. Even though the details of our 2 requests, the cities, the dates, are totally different, the basic job, the task type, is exactly the same: book some travel. That 7-step plan we saw earlier, it works perfectly for both. The only things that change are the key parameters, which are kind of like the ingredient. So, let's get into the nitty-gritty. How does AgentReuse actually pull this off? Well, it follows a really smart 4-step process to recycle that old work without messing anything up. It's pretty slick. First, when a new request comes in, the system figures out the user's intent. It goes, aha, this person wants to book a ticket. Then, step 2, it pulls out the specific parameters, the ingredients, like Changsha, Shanghai, and tomorrow. Step 3, it searches its memory for a book ticket plan it's used before, our recipe card. And finally, once it finds that recipe, it just plugs in the new ingredients and runs the plan. No need to waste 25 seconds reinventing the wheel every single time. So, that's the theory. It's a fantastic idea, but does it actually work in the real world? Does it make a difference? Oh yeah, the results are not just good, they are an absolute game changer. This is the hero number right here. AgentReuse cuts down that initial plan generation latency, that 25-second wait, by over 93%.
Let that sink in. That's not a small improvement, that's a massive leap.
And you can really see the difference here. On the left, you've got the original average wait time of almost 32 seconds just to think of a plan. And on the right, with AgentReuse, that time is basically gone. It turns that long, frustrating pause into something that feels almost instantaneous. And it's not just fast, it's also incredibly smart and efficient. It correctly reuses an old plan over 93% of the time, and its ability to judge if two requests are similar enough is nearly perfect. And maybe the best part? This whole process is super lightweight. It adds less than 1/10 of a second to the request and uses a tiny amount of memory. That makes it perfect for the phones and devices we use every single day. So the big takeaway here is that this is so much more than just a speed boost. Making something more than 10 times faster, that fundamentally changes our relationship with it. It's the difference between an AI assistant being a fun novelty and becoming a truly reliable, can't live without it part of your day. So it makes you wonder, what new, more complicated things would you be willing to hand over if you knew the response would be instant?